The rain began on a Tuesday, but Elias did not recognize it as the beginning of anything other than a storm. He stood at the window of his small stone cottage. He offered a quiet prayer of thanks. The garden needed the water. He did not yet know that the garden would soon be swallowed whole. He was a man accustomed to solitude. His wife had passed 3 years ago. His children had moved to the city. The farm was his companion now. He moved through his days with a quiet rhythm, and in that rhythm, he found space for prayer. A constant, wordless turning of his heart toward God. But the storm did not relent. By the 3rd day, the stream had become a churning, brown beast. Elias stood at his door and watched it creep closer. Fear rose in his chest. He had buried his wife. He had watched his children leave. He thought he had made his peace with loss. But this was different. This was annihilation. He went inside and knelt beside his bed. He opened his mouth to pray, but no words came. For the first time in his life, he felt utterly alone. "Where are you?" he whispered. "I have walked in your ways. Where are you now?" No answer came, only the rain. When the water began to seep under his door, Elias moved. He took his shepherd's staff. He took a bag of bread and cheese. He took the wool blanket his wife had woven. He paused at the shelf where the family Bible sat. His hand trembled as he picked it up. He did not know why. Perhaps because some buried part of him still hoped the words inside were true. He stepped out into the flood. The water was at his ankles, then his knees, then his waist. The path he had walked for 40 years was gone. He leaned into his staff. Each step was a war against the current. Then his foot slipped. He went under. The current seized him. It rolled him. His sack was torn from his shoulder. His staff was ripped from his grip. He reached out. His fingers grasped nothing but water. He was going to die. He knew it. So this is how it ends, he thought. After all these years, this is how you let me go. And then, above the churning water, the clouds broke open. A single beam of golden light pierced through the storm and struck the surface of the flood. It was something alive. The light rested on the water, warm and bright, cutting through the darkness like a promise. Deep beneath the surface, something stirred in Elias. A word came to him, not spoken aloud, but impressed upon his very bones. "When you pass through the waters, I am with you." A voice that had spoken the universe into existence was now speaking into the wreckage of his drowning life. "I am with you." His hands found a rock. He clung. He pulled himself up until his head broke the surface. He gasped. He crawled until he felt solid ground beneath him. He lay there, trembling. The voice had not spoken again, but the presence had not left. It surrounded him, vast and strangely gentle. He was not alone. He had never been alone. He rose to his feet. His body was bruised. His sack was gone. The Bible was gone. Everything had been swept away. But something in his chest had been swept clean as well. The fear was gone. The despair was gone. In their place was a stillness the flood could not touch. He walked. He did not know where he was going. He only knew that each step was guided. After some time, he came to a cave on the mountainside. Inside, others had gathered. A young mother clutching her baby. An old widow sitting alone. A shepherd and his young son. They huddled in the darkness, their faces tight with fear. He walked past the cave to a rocky outcrop and looked down at the valley. It was a wasteland. Mud covered everything. Trees lay uprooted. In the distance, his cottage was gone. A pile of stone and timber was all that remained. He stood there for a long time. The grief was there, but it was no longer a weight that crushed him. It was a sorrow he could carry. He walked back to the cave. He had nothing to offer them. No blanket, no food, no words. He was as empty as they were. But as he sat in the darkness, the presence stirred in him again. A warmth, a quiet urging. He did not speak of God. He simply sat among them, and the presence that had rescued him from the flood radiated from him like warmth from a fire. In that cave, surrounded by waters that had taken everything from them, they were not alone. Night passed, dawn came. Elias was the first to wake. He rose and walked to the cave entrance. The rain had stopped. The clouds were breaking apart. He stepped out onto the rocky ledge. The sun was rising. Golden light poured over the torn earth. The water was gone. The land was exposed. The sky was opening. He stood there, the light warming his face. He thought of the Bible he had lost. But the words were not lost. They were written on something deeper than paper. When you pass through the waters, I am with you. He had passed through. He was still standing. And the one who had spoken to him in the depths had not let him go. He turned back to the people in the cave and gave a small nod. They began to rise. They stepped out into the morning light. Elias led the way down the muddy path. The sunrise was behind him, casting his shadow long before him. A small group of people who had lost everything, but they were walking. They were walking together. The valley lay before them, scarred but alive. The mud would dry, new grass would grow, and they had the promise that had followed them through the water and onto the dry ground. The story you just heard is rooted in the promise of Isaiah 43:2. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers they shall not overwhelm you. This verse was not written for people with easy lives. It was written for people who knew what it meant to lose everything. The promise does not say the waters will not come. It says, when you are in them, I will be with you, and they will not overwhelm you. If you are walking through deep waters today, whether of grief, fear, uncertainty, or loss, hear this, you are not alone. The same voice that spoke to Elias in the darkness is speaking to you. The flood will not last forever. The dawn will come. And when it does, you will find that you are still standing, not because you held on, but because he held you. If this story encouraged you, please subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. And tell me in the comments, what waters are you passing through today?